Whether you're from the northern United States or the southern states, I bet when I say chicken and dumplings, you think comfort food. Traditionally, when you made chicken and dumplings, you stewed a chicken in a pot of water and made a broth, and that broth and chicken became the stew. But the only problem with that is that the chicken then lost all its flavor to the broth, which was super tasty, but the chicken not so much. So I use a shortcut, which actually helps us give even more flavor because a rotisserie chicken has tons of flavor. It's already cooked, so you don't even have to worry about that step. And I'm going to use really good chicken broth, so now I have the best of both worlds. First things first, let's start by sauteing some vegetables. I'm going to use a big pot because our first step is to make the stew. Then we're going to make the dumplings to go in the stew. I need room to have steam to cook all those dumplings on top, so a nice stock pot is the way to go. Preheat your pan, and then we're going to saute what I call mirepoix. Onion, carrots, celery. We're going to saute or sweat all of this mirepoix in the pot and get it nice and soft. So a little bit of olive oil in the pan. We add our vegetables. We'll give them a stir. I'm going to season my vegetables right now because that's going to help draw some of those juices out and help them soften faster. This should take 5 to 8 minutes. So once that mirepoix has softened a little bit, we're going to add a little bit of garlic. Now, depending on how much you like garlic, you can either chop it really fine for a stronger garlic flavor, smash the clove for just a gentle flavor, or something in between would be slicing it like this. I'm also going to add some dried thyme and dried rosemary at this point. And we're going to stir this in and let that cook for just a minute more. Now I'm going to add flour. This is going to make what is similar to a roux in this pan. The flour is going to absorb any of that oil that's still left there while the vegetables are still cooking, and it's this flour that's going to thicken our stew sauce. So stir this in the pan. It might brown a little bit, but don't let it burn. There'll be a little bit of a nutty aroma in the air, and now it's time to add some liquid. So the first thing I'm going to add is some white wine or dry vermouth if you don't happen to have a bottle of white wine open. Add that. That will simmer right away and the alcohol will boil off. And then we're going to go straight in with some really good chicken stock. How do you know if chicken stock is good? Well, look at the color of it for one thing. You want to make sure that it has a decent brown tone to it. If it looks like just dirty water, that's not good stock. Stir this together. And we're going to see this thicken just a little bit as it comes to a simmer. But there's no need to wait for that point. We can go ahead and add our tasty rotisserie chicken. So this is going to form the basis of our chicken and dumplings. This is the chicken stew portion. Chicken stew doesn't take that long. Let this simmer for 15 minutes. That's just enough time to clear up and start our dumpling dough. To make dumplings, you could use a quick biscuit mix. Make those biscuits and then just doctor it up with some lemon, some chives, or if you want to make them from scratch, it's really easy. In my bowl, I have some flour, baking powder, and salt. I'm going to add some butter to this. It's room temperature. I'm going to cut this butter, so to speak, into the flour using the best tools you have in the kitchen, which are your hands. So give them a wash and then go ahead and pinch this butter into the flour until it feels like small crumbs. Once you can see no more big lumps of butter and it just feels a little grainy, we're going to add some chives and some milk in here and make this into a proper batter. So stir this together with a wooden spoon or a spatula until a wet dough forms. And then let that sit until your stew is ready. So your stew is ready when it smells great, tastes great, and the sauce has thickened a little bit. Let me taste that. See, now that is so good because the chicken was so tasty and the broth was tasty. I don't think it needs anything else. So now's the time when we make our dumplings. I'm gonna grab a spatula. This dough should be wet enough that you really can't handle it. You're gonna need tools to do so. We're gonna just take lumps of this dough and drop it into the stew. Now this is just one type of dumpling that you'll see in chicken and dumplings. It's sort of what you'll see in maybe the northeastern United States. In the South, they have rolled dumplings, which is more like a dough that's rolled out flat and then cut into squares and added to the stew. We're gonna let this simmer with the lid off for about 10 minutes. After it's simmered for 10 minutes, you'll see the dumplings look like this. They've sort of cooked together, but when we go to spoon out the chicken and dumplings, they will separate easily. It's time to cover the pot and let it steam for another 10 minutes. Make sure that temperature is down a little bit so it doesn't get too rough. Steam the rest of those dumplings. They will rise up and be pillowy and delicious. 10 minutes of steaming time should be just enough. Let's check to make sure they're cooked. How do you tell? Well, just give them a little poke with your finger. They should feel firm-ish to the touch. You don't want rock-hard dumplings, but they should feel like they are together and cooked through. Now, all you have to do is spoon it out and serve it up.